Before she became a household name, Olivia Hastings was just another young journalist with a microphone, hustling through the halls of city council buildings in Phoenix, Arizona. Back then, she had no national platform, no book deals, no six-figure speaking engagements. What she had was something rarer: instinct. Olivia could sniff out a weak argument like a bloodhound. Her interviews with local politicians became small viral moments, shared not for their production value, but for her fearless, sharp questioning that often left public officials squirming in their seats. Her rise through the media landscape was fast and deliberate. From Phoenix, she moved to Seattle, then Los Angeles, and finally Washington, D.C., collecting not just job titles but a reputation. She wasn't just a journalist. She was a force. She delivered the news with a voice that was firm, biting, and unapologetically opinionated. In a media world increasingly blurred between reporting and commentary, Olivia embraced the hybrid. She gave viewers more than headlines. She gave them judgment, delivered with a smirk and a razor-sharp tone. What truly set her apart, however, was her style. Olivia Hastings didn't just criticize, she dismantled. She didn't hide behind objectivity. She wielded subjectivity like a weapon, and her audience loved her for it. In a polarized political climate, she was a hero to progressives, a woman unafraid to go after the ultra-rich, the corporate elite, and especially the billionaires shaping public discourse. No one embodied that target better than Elon Musk. To her audience, Musk was everything wrong with modern capitalism. Too rich, too reckless, too adored. So when Olivia called him a fraud on national television, it didn't feel like a risk. It felt like more of what she was born to do. But Olivia's strength, her confidence, her willingness to speak hard truths, was also her blind spot. She had grown so used to being right, to being cheered for every takedown, that she had forgotten something essential. Power doesn't always lie in institutions. Sometimes it lies in individuals, and some individuals, like Musk, know how to fight back. That night on air, she didn't realize she was poking a bear that wouldn't growl but would calmly, ruthlessly expose her flaws. For Olivia Hastings, that moment wasn't just another broadcast. It was the beginning of a reckoning. It happened on a Wednesday night, the kind of show that producers loved. The energy was sharp, the panel was stacked, and the topic was a guaranteed crowd pleaser: billionaires and ethics. Olivia Hastings, in her signature tailored suit, leaned back in her chair, confidence radiating from every gesture. She'd done this 1,000 times before. The cameras rolled, the lights burned bright, and Olivia did what she did best. She took aim. Honestly, the guy's a fraud, she said, waving a hand dismissively. Elon Musk has built an empire on overpromises and Twitter tantrums. Laughter bubbled from the audience. Her co-host smirked. Her panelists nodded along. Olivia felt the rhythm, the familiar swell of momentum. It wasn't just commentary. It was performance, and the crowd was in sync. She doubled down. Tesla almost collapsed. SpaceX has blown up more rockets than I can count. Twitter is a mess. Let's stop pretending he's a visionary and start calling him what he really is: a salesman with enough money to fail until something sticks. It felt good. It felt right. She wasn't reading from a teleprompter. This was pure Olivia. She thrived in these moments, and the room responded like always. Or so she thought. What she didn't notice, what no one on her team caught, was the silence. Not a long one, but enough. That half-second hesitation before the usual applause. A flicker of something different. Outside the studio, it was already beginning. Clips of her comments hit social media before the credits even rolled. Hashtags started trending. Some users cheered her on, calling her brave for saying what needed to be said. But others weren't laughing. Then came Musk's tweet. Just 4 words and a link. Interesting take. Let's go over the facts. No name calling. No sarcasm. Just a thread. Bulletproof facts. Screenshots. Financial statements. Industry testimonials. A side-by-side dismantling of everything she had just claimed. It didn't scream revenge. It whispered credibility. And suddenly, the tone shifted. Viewers, not just Musk fans, but her viewers, began asking questions. Had Olivia exaggerated? Was she misinformed? Or worse, had she lied? What was supposed to be another routine takedown turned into a storm. A slow-building reckoning that started not with a scandal, but with a sentence. Olivia Hastings had made a career out of tearing down giants. But this time, she may have underestimated the wrong one. Elon Musk's response wasn't loud. It didn't come with insults, hashtags, or viral memes. It came in the form of a calm, four-word tweet. Interesting take. Let's go over the facts. Attached was a thread. No rants. No name-calling. Just receipts, cold, undeniable data. Charts showing Tesla's profitability, records of SpaceX's missions, proof of Falcon 9's industry-changing reusability, images of Starlink's real-world coverage, and testimonies from employees, engineers, and independent analysts. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. And it worked. The internet didn't explode in outrage. It exploded in curiosity. People who'd never paid close attention to Musk now dug through the data. Tech journalists, engineers, even longtime Musk critics began to admit some of what Olivia said didn't hold up. And the ones who once echoed her takes now hesitated. Something fell off. For the first time, people weren't laughing with Olivia. They were fact-checking her. Screenshots from her segment were dissected. Her quotes were recontextualized. Her tone, once seen as fearless, now came across as smug. A single post from Musk had shifted the ground beneath her. What made it worse? Musk never lost his cool. He didn't gloat. He didn't call for her cancellation. He didn't even mention her name again. He simply presented facts and moved on, as if to say, I don't need to win the argument. The truth already has. And that silence? That calm? It echoed louder than any viral moment Olivia had ever created. Meanwhile, the backlash didn't come just from Musk's fanbase. It came from her own. Viewers who had followed her for years, who trusted her as a voice of truth, started to pull back. Social media comments shifted tone. I usually love Olivia, but this is disappointing. Wait, she just made those claims up. When does she issue a correction? But Olivia Hastings didn't do corrections. Not in her world. Instead, she addressed the controversy the next night with a clipped, defiant monologue. We report opinions here. Not everyone has to like them. The words only made things worse. The internet doesn't forget, and it certainly doesn't forgive a weak deflection. Sponsors began reaching out to the network, ratings dipped, and internal meetings started happening. The kind Olivia wasn't usually invited to. Elon Musk had done something she wasn't prepared for. He responded like a leader, not a rival. And in doing so, he shifted the story. The headlines no longer asked, was Olivia right about Musk? They asked something far more dangerous. Can we still trust Olivia Hastings? The storm didn't come all at once. It came in waves, quiet at first, then crashing. At the heart of it stood Olivia Hastings, once seen as untouchable, now watching her reputation erode in real time. It started with the emails, not from trolls or political opponents, but from her own viewers, people who had followed her for years, people who had quoted her during dinner debates, defended her against critics, and trusted her voice above all. Their messages were polite but firm. I still respect you, Olivia, but this wasn't your best moment. You've always held others accountable. Will you hold yourself to the same standard? Then came sponsors, quiet phone calls to network executives, calm but concerned voices asking for clarification. No ultimatums, not yet, but the message was clear. They were paying attention, and they weren't happy. Her show's ratings didn't collapse overnight, but the decline was visible. For years, Olivia's program had dominated its time slot. Now, the numbers told a different story. Viewers were leaving, not in protest, but in disillusionment. Inside the network, tension grew. Meetings were called. Olivia, who had once walked the halls like a queen, now found herself being summoned like an employee on probation. The producers she once mentored now looked at her with worry in their eyes. And yet, Olivia held her ground. On air, she kept the same tone, defiant, unwavering. We don't cater to billionaires here. We speak truth to power, she said, almost daring the world to push back harder. But it wasn't the billionaires who were pushing back. It was her audience, her allies, her industry. The headlines shifted from sensational to surgical. Olivia Hastings under fire. A reputation in question. Opinion or misinformation. The line Olivia crossed. Sponsors waver as Olivia doubles down. Her critics, long waiting for a crack in her armor, seized the moment. But what stung more were the critiques from her peers, other journalists, commentators, even longtime friends who said, not with anger, but with disappointment, "We expected better." And then came Musk again. No insights, no victory laps, just one calm tweet. "Let's have a real discussion. Your show, your terms. I'll be there." It wasn't a challenge. It was an invitation, one that changed everything. The tweet was simple, almost disarmingly so. "Let's have a real discussion. Your show, your terms. I'll be there. No hashtags, no sarcasm, just an open door." It hit like a lightning bolt. Within minutes, hashtag Hastings versus Musk began trending across platforms. Memes popped up. Editorials speculated. Talk shows debated whether she would accept. This wasn't just about correcting the record anymore. This was about pride, power, and public pressure. For Olivia Hastings, it was a nightmare dressed as a challenge. She had built her brand on confrontation, on taking bold stands and never backing down. And now, the man she had called a fraud had invited her to face him, live and censored, on her turf. If she refused, she would look weak. If she accepted and failed, her reputation could shatter. Inside the network, the energy was electric. Executives were divided. Some feared it would blow up further. Others smelled ratings gold. One thing was certain. The moment had already become bigger than the show itself. Backstage, Olivia sat with her team, the usually loud green room now quiet. A producer broke the silence. "We can still play it safe. Issue a vague statement. Say your piece and move on." But another cut in. "Or, you take the chair. Show them you've got nothing to hide." Olivia didn't answer immediately. Her jaw was clenched. Her mind was racing. She hadn't just underestimated Musk. She had underestimated his strategy. This wasn't about one tweet or one show. He was flipping the entire narrative, taking the high road, offering transparency, and in doing so, painting her as the one who was dodging the truth. What he'd done, masterfully, was shift the spotlight. The question was no longer about him. It was about her. Would she sit across from him and hold her ground? The network gave her two options. Option A, play it safe. Release a scripted, legally vetted apology. Keep her distance. Option B, say yes. Invite him on. Take the risk. She chose option B. The announcement sent shockwaves. News tickers lit up. Podcasts scrambled to analyze the move. For the first time in weeks, Olivia Hastings wasn't on defense. She was back in control of the narrative. Or so she thought. Before she became the face of bold progressive media, before her words could shake headlines and shift markets, Olivia Hastings was just another face in a crowded newsroom. She started small, painfully small, as a junior reporter in Phoenix, Arizona. Her first assignments were local: school board meetings, water rate changes, traffic light installations. The kind of stories that rarely made it past the morning paper's third page. But Olivia approached them with the tenacity of someone chasing down corruption at the highest level. She didn't just report what happened. She asked why, who benefits, and who's hiding the truth. That instinct made her different. Her big break came during a local corruption scandal. While most reporters stuck to press releases and official statements, Olivia went digging. What she uncovered, backdoor real estate deals between city council members and developers, shook the local government. The story exploded. Her name was suddenly on every network's radar. From there, her rise was fast. Phoenix to Seattle, Seattle to Los Angeles, then to Washington, D.C. With each move, her reputation grew. She became known for her sharp questions, her refusal to be talked over, and her uncanny ability to trap politicians in their own contradictions. But it wasn't until she got her own show that everything changed. At first, she played it straight, serious journalism, long-form interviews, deep-dive investigations. But the numbers didn't lie. What audiences craved wasn't just truth, it was voice. Olivia had one, and when she leaned into it, things took off. She dropped the neutral tone. She stopped pretending to be detached. She started calling out hypocrisy with fire. She didn't just ask hard questions. She made bold statements. She became a voice, not just a reporter. Someone who didn't just report the news. She owned it. Viewers loved it. Sponsors lined up. Networks fought for her airtime. Olivia Hastings became not just a journalist, but a brand. And every brand needs a villain. For Olivia, no villain was more useful, more crowd-pleasing than Elon Musk. He was rich, powerful, arrogant, unfiltered, a perfect target. She painted him as reckless, ethically questionable, and overhyped. And for years, the audience agreed. What Olivia didn't realize was that building a career on toppling giants was easy, until one of them pushed back. The night of the debate felt electric. The studio, usually a familiar and controlled space for Olivia Hastings, was suddenly unfamiliar, buzzing with nerves, thick with tension. Security had been doubled. The audience, carefully curated in the past, now included skeptics, supporters, and everyone in between. This wasn't just a segment. It was an event. Musk arrived minutes before airtime, dressed casually in a dark blazer and jeans. No entourage, no media spectacle, just quiet confidence. Olivia, in a sharp suit, stood poised, but inside her stomach churned. She had faced senators, CEOs, activists, but this felt different. This wasn't just another guest. This was the man she'd spent years tearing down. The cameras rolled. The lights came up. And for the first time in her career, Olivia Hastings wasn't sure she had the upper hand. She opened strong, pressing Musk on his failures, past controversies, and erratic public behavior. She brought up Tesla's early struggles, the exploding rockets at SpaceX, the Twitter chaos. Her tone was sharp, rehearsed, firm. Musk listened. He didn't interrupt. When he spoke, it wasn't defensive, it was disarmingly honest. He acknowledged missteps. Then, with quiet clarity, he explained how each failure had led to breakthroughs. He spoke of sleeping on Tesla's factory floors, risking everything for ideas no one believed in. He told stories, not just statistics, and the audience leaned in. He didn't win with facts alone. He won with tone, with humility, with moments of unexpected humor. At one point, even Olivia cracked a smile. And she felt it, the shift. The room was no longer hers. The debate wasn't about pinning Musk down anymore. It was about understanding him. And in doing so, the audience began to understand something else. Maybe they had misjudged him. And maybe, just maybe, Olivia had too. She pushed back. Hard, but he never lost his composure. He didn't gloat. He didn't attack. He just kept talking, calm, composed, and utterly in control of his narrative. The show ended with no knockout punch, no explosive moment. But the reaction online was immediate and overwhelming. That wasn't a debate. That was a conversation. Musk came out more human than ever. Respect to Olivia for facing him, but she got outplayed. And Olivia knew it too. She didn't lose because she was wrong on every point. She lost because she underestimated the power of calm truth. She thought she was entering a fight. Instead, she walked into a reckoning. The morning after the debate, the numbers were staggering. Viewership had shattered previous records, not just for Olivia's show, but for the network as a whole. Social media buzzed. Hashtags trended globally. Clips of the debate were being dissected in podcasts, parroted on TikTok, and analyzed on morning news panels. On paper, it looked like a triumph. Executives smiled. Advertisers called. Charts showed spikes in engagement across every metric. But Olivia Hastings wasn't smiling, because behind the numbers was a different story, one she couldn't ignore. The headlines weren't about her victory. They weren't about a fiery takedown or a masterful comeback. They were about Elon Musk. Musk wins the room with calm confidence. Olivia Hastings faces a human, not a headline. Debate or redemption? Viewers reconsider Elon Musk. She sat in her dressing room, scrolling through reactions. The worst part wasn't the criticism. She could handle that. It was the shift in tone from her own viewers. The people who used to clap at every punchline. Now, they were saying, I don't even like Musk, but he made a lot of sense. Maybe we've been too harsh on him. Olivia didn't lose, but she didn't win either. And that ambiguity? That was worse than losing. She had built a career on clarity, on drawing lines, calling out villains, delivering certainty in a messy world. But this debate had blurred everything. It made Elon Musk more human, and Olivia more complicated. Behind the scenes, the network had mixed feelings. Yes, the ratings were a win. Yes, the buzz was unmatched. But the brand? The Olivia Hastings brand, the sharp, fearless, never-back-down media warrior, was suddenly in question. Some executives praised her for facing the challenge. Others wondered aloud if the tone of the show needed to evolve. There were meetings, long ones, filled with phrases like strategic recalibration and viewer trust recovery. Olivia sat through them all, jaw clenched. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure where she stood. Her platform had never been bigger, but it had never felt shakier either. Elon Musk hadn't destroyed her. He hadn't needed to. He had simply told his story better. And now, for millions watching, he was the voice that seemed more measured, more real. And Olivia? She was no longer the one holding the mic. She was the one being watched. The pressure was no longer just external. It was closing in from all directions. Inside the network's boardroom, Olivia Hastings sat at the long, polished table, surrounded by executives, producers, and legal advisors. The faces around her looked tense, their voices measured. For once, she wasn't leading the room. She was being managed. "We have sponsors reaching out," one executive said carefully. "They're nervous," another added. "They want to know where this is going." On the surface, things still looked stable. Her ratings were strong. Her name was everywhere. But the foundation beneath her, the trust of her audience, the confidence of her backers, was starting to crack. Then came the ultimatum. "You have two options," the head of programming said. "You can read the prepared statement tomorrow night, the one vetted by legal and PR, or you can take this into your own hands and do it live." Olivia didn't respond immediately. The script was already in her inbox. Safe, polished, designed to calm the noise without saying much at all. It was the kind of apology that said everything and nothing at once, a masterclass in corporate damage control. But Olivia had built a career on never backing down, on speaking raw truths, not carefully edited lines. And yet, she now faced a truth she could no longer dodge. She had misjudged Musk and misled her viewers. In her dressing room later that night, she stared at her reflection. The strong, composed host looked back at her, but something in the eyes had changed. The fight was still there, but so was doubt. And that doubt was louder than pride. Her producer knocked once and stepped inside. The execs want your decision by morning. She nodded, still silent. Her eyes drifted to the headlines flashing on her phone. Tweets, articles, video clips. One comment stood out more than the rest. "Real strength isn't in doubling down. It's in owning your mistakes." That line stayed with her long after the lights went out. The studio felt different that night. There was no panel, no flashy graphics, no dramatic music. Just Olivia Hastings, alone at the desk, under a single spotlight, staring into the lens of a camera that had once been her ally and now felt like a mirror. The teleprompter was loaded with the statement. Every word had been approved by legal teams, PR specialists, and network executives. It was clean, polished, neutral, the kind of apology that would protect reputations without exposing vulnerability. All Olivia had to do was read it. But when the countdown reached 0 and the red light blinked on, something in her shifted. She didn't read the script. Instead, she looked directly into the camera and began. "I've been thinking a lot about last night's show, and I need to talk to you, not as a host, not as a commentator, but as someone who got something wrong." The control room froze. Producers exchanged glances. The legal team tensed. But Olivia kept going. "For years, I've been critical of Elon Musk. Sometimes fairly, sometimes not. But sitting across from him, I realized I wasn't debating a headline. I was talking to a person. And that person, whether you like him or not, deserved more honesty from me." It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it, calm, grounded, real. The fire in her voice had softened, replaced by something rarer, humility. She paused, then continued. "I owe Musk an apology. Not for challenging him, but for underestimating him. For letting my bias speak louder than the facts. That's not the journalist I want to be. And I can do better. In the control room, silence hung heavy. No one moved. No one spoke. And then, as if reclaiming the fire for just one last moment, she added, "And if you think this is me playing it safe, you don't know me very well." That line, that smirk, was classic Olivia. But the woman on screen that night was not the same one from a week ago. She wasn't untouchable anymore. She was vulnerable, human, and, perhaps for the first time in her career, truly trusted. The apology ended. The screen cut to commercial. But the impact had just begun. The internet exploded within minutes of the broadcast. Clips of Olivia's apology flooded social media. Some praised her courage. Others accused her of folding under pressure. Hashtags like hashtag respect Olivia, hashtag she folded, and hashtag Hastings apology trended side by side. Proof that her message had landed, but not cleanly. In opinion columns and podcasts, the debate shifted. It was no longer about Elon Musk's achievements or Olivia's past remarks. It was about something deeper, something more human. What does it mean to admit you're wrong? Some viewers hailed the apology as a watershed moment in modern media, a rare instance of humility in a world that rewards outrage. That took guts. We need more of this. Accountability, not ego. She may have lost a fight, but she earned something bigger. Others weren't so forgiving. She sold out. Only said sorry because she got caught. Too little too late. Even Musk responded, posting a single word on X, formerly Twitter. Respect. But perhaps the most powerful reaction came from those who had once stopped listening. Viewers who had grown tired of polarized media, of talking heads shouting past each other. They saw something in Olivia that night they hadn't seen before. Growth. For years, Olivia had been the embodiment of certainty. Sharp lines. Bold declarations. Novak pedaling. But in that moment, she showed that even the loudest voices can reflect, reconsider, and change. And in doing so, she reminded people that strength isn't just about standing your ground. It's about knowing when to step back. Inside the network, the atmosphere shifted too. The ratings remained strong. But more importantly, public trust, shaken just days ago, began to return. The apology didn't just save Olivia's job. It reshaped her career. She was no longer just a liberal firebrand. She was something more rare. A public figure who dared to evolve in front of millions. Her next show opened with no fanfare. No panel. No drama. Just Olivia, calm and clear, saying, "Let's get back to asking hard questions and really listening to the answers." And just like that, a new chapter began. For the first time in her career, Olivia Hastings didn't know what came next. She had spent years climbing, building her brand, voice, and audience one sharp monologue at a time. But now, standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, she found herself asking questions she never thought she would. Would her audience stay with her? Would they respect the shift in tone? Or would they leave, looking for someone louder, angrier, more certain? The truth was, Olivia didn't have all the answers, and maybe that was the point. Her apology had cracked something open, not just in the public perception of her, but in herself. The certainty she once wielded like a sword was now tempered by something new, reflection. She wasn't abandoning her values. She wasn't going soft, but she was beginning to realize that growth doesn't come from always being right. It comes from being willing to ask if you might have been wrong. The media landscape had changed, and so had she. The age of the angry pundit shouting over opponents was starting to feel tired. Audiences weren't just craving hot takes. They were craving authenticity. And ironically, Olivia had become most powerful not when she attacked, but when she admitted fault. The network, watching the numbers and sentiment closely, chose to give her space. Not a demotion, not a rebranding, just a quiet green light to find her voice again, whatever form that took. In the weeks that followed, Olivia returned to the screen, not as the same firebrand, but as something more compelling. A woman who had lived through a public reckoning and come out wiser. Her interviews became deeper. Her questions more open. She still challenged, but now she listened. She allowed space for nuance. for complexity, for truth that didn't fit in a headline. And slowly, something unexpected happened. She began winning people back. Not just her old audience, but a new one. Viewers who had stopped trusting media, who never felt seen, who longed for someone willing to evolve publicly. Where Olivia Hastings would go from here was still uncertain. Would she return to her roots in investigative journalism? Launch something independent? Write the book people were already asking for? She didn't know. Not yet. But one thing was clear. In an industry that rewarded noise, she had chosen something harder. Something quieter. Something real.